What's going on, my eaters? It's your boy Chef Drew, aka Chef, aka Big Drew. Y'all, I am so excited to be here this week with you. It's the holiday season. Everyone's hustling and bustling, buying gifts, doing things. And we thought, what better a time to talk about events and events planning. So this week, we're gonna show you our way of how we put events together. But before we get into that, please, 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 like, subscribe, do all the things to help us keep bringing you this great content. Let's go. All right, y'all, like I said, this week we're talking about creating events, what it takes to put a good event together, our keys to success for an event. Listen, I took some notes. I jotted them down here on my phone. So if you see me looking at my phone, please don't get irritated with me. It's just, you know, we don't need pen and paper all the time anymore. We got iPhones and things. So I'm just gonna look here at my notes and we're gonna do this video. So with that said, as y'all know, we are chefs. Our personal passion in the culinary field is catering. We love doing events. We love doing corporate catering, personal catering, supper club stuff. Any opportunity to just gather people and fellowship, we are here for it. To me personally, Gwen likes being in restaurant kitchens and things of that nature, the craziness and the hustle bustle of restaurant kitchens. Me, not so much. I like being in the hustle bustle of catering events because I feel like that culinary world, it's still very busy. It still has a lot of moving parts, but it's much more calculated. We can kind of plan the chaos a little bit more for my liking. So this video is right up my alley. I'm super excited to talk about it with you. So whenever you're creating a successful event, what are the things that we need to consider and keep in mind? I know we've all experienced having to plan a birthday party or a wedding or an anniversary party or a gig at a meeting or a gig at the office, and it can get chaotic. Or you hear about someone planning a birthday party for someone at the house, and you know, you get there a little bit beforehand to help them out, and the kitchen looks crazy, stuff all over the place. What I want to do is kind of help you kind of streamline that and prevent those things from happening so we can create these events, but not lose our brain at the same time. So, the keys to a successful event. What does that entail? What does that take? For me, for Pink's Barbecue, for the Eating Chambers, the foremost thought when creating an event is we want to always strive to create an experience. We want to leave people wanting to come back for more, talking about it, all those things. To do that effectively, y'all, it takes time. So I would say when you're creating an event or doing something, sometimes, you know, you have a little kickback, you invite people over short notice. I'm not talking about that. But when you're genuinely trying to create an event or do something meaningful and impactful, it takes time, y'all. It ain't no throwing things together. So just know that going in advance. When I say time, depending on the event, it could be a week or two, or it could be a year, just depending on the event. Either way, you want to make sure whatever the event is you're taking on, you give yourself the time to plan it and execute it properly. When I say a week or two, that could be something as simple as like a dinner party. When I say a year, that could be a wedding or a festival or something like that, just to give you some scope. The first thing, after we get that established, like we're trying to create something meaningful, the first thing that I tell anybody that we consider is budget. Y'all, you gotta know how much money you wanna spend to do this. Creating events costs money. Inviting people, hosting people costs money. You wanna make sure you figure out how much you have to spend on said event so you can move accordingly. You can execute an event on a small budget. You can execute an event on a large budget. Either way, you just want to figure out what that budget is going into it. And you want to set realistic goals and expectations. You don't ever want to have champagne taste and beer pockets. And you also don't want to hurt yourself financially for people to have a good time. Work within your budget. Just always, once you establish your budget, whatever it is, work from that place. Don't compromise it. And once you figure out your budget now, then we say, let's consider the venue. Y'all, some of the worst mistakes people make when it comes to putting an event together, a dinner party, whatever it is they don't consider the venue, the hosting space. Things you want to consider when you're choosing a venue. We always say you want to have the right size venue. So if you're having 0 to 20 people or 0 to 10 people, 10 to 20 people, 30 to 50 people, 100 plus, whatever the number is, you want to make sure whatever space you have is adequate for those people. That can mean moving furniture, that can mean renting a venue, that can mean keeping it outside. Whatever you do, you want to make sure you have the right venue for your event. Also, things to consider. Parking. People drive, y'all. So you want to make sure you communicate parking, you consider parking and communicate that to your guests. Sometimes parking, depending on where you are, can get a little tricky. That is fine. However, you just want to make sure you also communicate parking to your guest. You want to make sure you always have adequate seating. If it's a seated event, if it's like a music festival or something like that, then yeah, of course, seating becomes it's still important, but not as important as if it's like a gallery show or a dinner party or something like that. So adequate seating. Bathrooms, y'all. Please have enough bathrooms and toilets for the people, y'all. However you do that. Just make sure you have adequate bathrooms. People need the facilities for when they need the facilities. You want to make sure your heat and your air in whatever venue is appropriate. If you want to make sure if it needs to be warmed up, it can be warmed up. If it needs to be cooled down, it's cooled down. You don't want people overly sweating in your event if it ain't that kind of party. Trust me. I've done that a few times, had dinner parties or whatever. The space get a little more warm than I want. You got your guests glistening. You don't want your guests glistening inside, first of all, and you don't want them cold inside either. So make sure your heat and air are adequate. Power sources. If you need electricity, which typically you do when you're doing some kind of event, make sure you get the electricity there. That can be, and let me go back and talk about heat and air, and I'm going to talk about electricity as well. What I want to say for both of those things is you can typically bring those things in. So if you're worried about something being too hot, fans, misters, portable ACs, hand fans, just consider that. If it's going to be too cold, you have heaters, you can light a fire. Whatever, y'all, just make sure people are comfortable. Same thing with power. If you need to get generators or extension cords, these are some of the things that come to mind at first blush when I'm thinking about the venue. The other thing that we think about that we want to talk to you about a little bit when it comes to the venue is decor. Y'all, I'm a fan in always creating that wow effect when people hit the door. Now listen, that doesn't mean everything has to be be an event space or a venue. This can be in your home. Gwen and I host a lot of dinner parties and things like that. And when we do things at our house, for like a bigger event, not just some friends coming over, we like to have a nice food spread. When people walk in, they can see all the food. Oh my goodness. We like to see whatever your beverage station looks like. If you got lights and decor. Just you want to create that wow effect from the minute people hit the door so that people are like, oh, this is about to be a good time. We feel like getting people in that mind space from the beginning definitely adds to the party. Now, that's some of the foundational logistics, the money, the venue, comfortability, all that stuff. Now let's talk about the guest list. Y'all, sometimes you're just inviting family and things like that, so it is what it is. But other times you got more play in the guest list. And one thing that Gwen and I really like to do is we try to create within our guest list a good mix of personality and demographic. We got older people, we got younger people, we got black people, we got white people, we got some working class people, some more affluent people. Create a good pot for people to come and experience each other and experience people that maybe they otherwise would not typically interact with. You know what I'm saying? And then also, when considering the people mix and the flow of people, also consider, if you know these people, like, are these the people that are fun? Are these the people who got jokes? Are these the people who are kind of, the wallflowers? You don't want to party with too many of the wallflowers. That's why the mix of people is good. And oftentimes I feel like people just invite whoever, and sometimes things can be a little flat that way. So just consider who you're inviting as well. Now we got that stuff out of the way. I'm a chef, we're caterers. The food and the drink, y'all. You always want, for us, the food and the drink, you always want to make sure the menu is fire, the beverage options are fire. Let's talk about the menu, the food. Plan. To create a good menu and a good event, y'all, you want to start planning your food days in advance. Don't wait till the night before or the morning of or the day of. A lot of times, that's when things get chaotic, because it's one whole thing to take care of the food and the beverage, and it's a whole nother thing to take care of the other logistics of the party, the space, the people, and the other things that we're going to talk about. So give each item their appropriate space. With food, I feel like the thing that people most often mess up on is they wait too long to start worrying about the food. When Gwen and I are creating events, man, sometimes we're starting to deal with the food a week in advance. And we'll set a calendar and we say, okay, 7 days before, we're gonna write the shopping list. 6 days before, we're gonna start checking what we have in the house or in the kitchen versus what we don't have and we need to buy, and we start planning where we're gonna go and source these things, and then so on and so forth, so that by the time you get to the night before the day of your event, y'all, the food is taken care of. If anything, you're doing the last minute things that need to be fresh or heating things up exclusively. I promise you, this is one of the biggest areas where people mess up. Don't wait to the last minute for the food. In today's culture, when planning menus, we talk about making sure the menus are friendly. People have a lot of food allergies and sensitivities. So we want to encourage you also to keep that in mind. Pick menu items that are what they call friendly, or really literally talk to your guest and see if there's any food allergies or sensitivities that you need to be aware of so that you can accommodate them. What I also want to say is make sure your menu is balanced. Now, here's the thing. I argue with people. I've always grown up, and in my professional career and in my life, I just believe in providing all the food. I think if you're having an event and you're really planning the event and people are coming over and you're genuinely hosting, at my house, I like to plan all the food. I want people to just show up, have a good time. However, it has been brought to my attention. Last year, we were doing a Christmas party, and one of my little sisters, Jessie, said to me, Drew, sometimes people want to bring something so that it's their way of feeling like they've contributed and so on and so forth. So for those events or for those people, I get that, I understand. I'm going to choose to host pretty much exclusively. However, in the events now, when you have people who are bringing things like a potluck or something like that, my advice to you then is two things. One, make sure you communicate to everyone who is making food and bringing it to consider food allergies and things like that. Also consider sanitation. Make sure when they're making people's food, y'all, everything is clean where they making it at. That's another reason why I like to cook for myself and cook for my guests, because I know what's going on in my kitchen. And so, please don't be mad at me. I'm not judging nobody, but I'm just saying, But if you have people potlucking or what have you, make sure you communicate food sensitivities, allergies, sanitation. The other thing is, and this is very, very important when creating a menu, whether you're making all the food or you're having people bring the food, is make sure your menu is balanced. Don't no one need 3 macaroni and cheeses, y'all. Can we get a vegetable too? Where I live in the deep south, I'm gonna tell you what we notice a lot is we go places and there's plenty of meat, there's plenty of sweets, and there's plenty of starch. But people don't like them veggies like that, man. You get there and you're gonna have meat and potatoes or what have you. Create and orchestrate the menu so that it is balanced. Pick how many proteins you want, pick how many starches you want, pick how many desserts and veggies you want and need for the menu to be balanced. Also, when you're thinking about balance, you want to make sure you consider what types of meats, what types of veggies, what types of textures and flavor profiles. So y'all get it? Let me check my notes. Okay, that's it for the food. Beverages. Y'all, when I was a kid, my birthday was in the summertime and my parents used my birthday as like the family gathering of the year. And so one of the things that was very, very important to my father and my mom, and it kind of has stuck with me all these years, is when people came to our house for whether it was our summer barbecue or the holidays, when it came to beverages especially, they wanted to make sure they had everything for everyone. If you want some tea, if you want some coffee, if you want some juice, if you need water, if you want some drink in your liquor, if you wanted soda, make sure, for me, I just feel like you should have a good mix of beverages to offer people. Even if it's not necessarily out for everybody, if you're walking around and you hear someone say, hey, I love a cup of tea right now. How cool is it to just be able to be like, hey, what tea do you want? We can get you a cup right now. So we always try to consider, we always make sure we have something carbonated, some kind of juice or tea. I live in the South, so sweet tea or lemonade or some kind of juice, always water, and then alcoholic beverages. For people who do partake in alcoholic beverages, we try to make sure we have some beer and some liquor too in the mixers to go. As you can see, I'm just going to reiterate, this is a lot of moving parts. And so that is why planning is very important. When we were doing those barbecues and things when I was a kid, and me and Gwen still do it even to this day, sometimes we would start buying beverages a month or two in advance. That helps with your bank account. If you're funding this whole thing, you ain't got to take the big hit all at once. You can spread it out. And it just ensures that you can satisfy the needs of all your guests. So beverages, make sure you have something for everybody. And please, when it comes to beverages, we've all been to these parties or these get-togethers where the ice runs out or there ain't enough ice or people are making ice runs. Make sure you got coolers and make sure you got the ice you need so people's beverages, if they need them, can be cold and chilly. Also, what I'm going to say about food and beverage as well, I believe in home cook. Cook some home cooked food, man. A lot of times we live in a day and age where people don't really eat home cooked too much anymore. So when someone comes to our event and we can feed them a home cooked meal from scratch or as much from scratch as possible, people always really enjoy it because honestly and literally, A lot of people, man, they eat out dang near every meal, or they eat, the box stuff or the quick stuff in the microwave. So home cooking is always a good way to go. Now, I think we got the venue out the way and all those logistics. Now we've talked about the food and beverage. The next thing to talk about is the fun, the entertainment. Any good event has some kind of entertainment or moment that people can let loose and gather and share in fellowship. That might be music, speakers and Bluetooth speakers and music. That might be live entertainment. That might be games. Whatever it is. One thing I like to do at my house with my guests is if we don't have all of that stuff, I love to create conversation. And so I've developed what I call just the question game. And we'll gather everyone around, whether it's just in the living room, whether it's around the campfire where we're making s'mores and things. And we'll just ask questions, literal questions, just to get to know each other. So I might say, Joe's here with me filming right now. If me and Joe are at a kickback and some other people are around, I might just say, yo, we're gonna play the question game. Everyone will say, what's that, y'all? And I'll be like, yo, we're just gonna talk to each other. And I might just say, hey, yo, Joe, what scares you in life? Or is there anywhere, do you have a bucket list of travel? Anything. It literally is an opportunity to get to see what is in the people's heads that you're sitting with, learn their perspectives. It is amazing, y'all. It sounds so simple. People always now I'm kind of known for it, so it doesn't surprise them as much anymore. However, it's amazing how people, when you get started with the question game, they're like, what's going on here? But as people engage in it, it's amazing where the conversations go. It kind of takes a life on its own. So I'll ask Joe what his bucket list trip is, and then he'll share, then I'll share, and then you just go around the room or go around the group. Depending on the size of the party, you can split off into separate groups. And what I love about the question game is it always, always, always spurs additional conversation. You'll see people start going off and they're talking more. It's a great, great way to loosen up, and it's the type of thing you can just start that intimately just with you and another person, or you can involve the whole group. So always consider what your entertainment is. It literally can be as simple. I like vinyl records. You'll be amazed what'll happen. You start playing some records or just playing some music in a room, and music has a way of just pulling people. Or sitting around a campfire. It's the winter time. It's cool. Sit around the campfire, man. Get a little s'more situation going on, or some popcorn. It's so nostalgic, man, and people don't gather like this anymore. So consider strongly the entertainment, whatever that is. Something that Gwen and I also always try to do is create some kind of surprise moment, something that we have hid in our pocket that we don't tell anybody about. I remember a few years ago, y'all, I used to be strongly averse to Christmas trees. I just had an aversion for them for various reasons. And Gwen thought it was the craziest thing because I wasn't always that way, and I kind of adopted that attitude. And so one day she said, I'm gonna get you to like Christmas trees. And she created this event, and she called it the Winter Wonderland. And we invited all our friends, y'all. I think we had 30 people in this party. And she had all these she kept everything a secret from me for the most part. She decorated our garage with like 6 or 7 different Christmas trees, different types of themed Christmas trees. The food spread was crazy great. I didn't know everyone who was coming, so there was that going on. And we're sitting there, and probably an hour and a half into the party, there was a knock on the door. And so we knocked on the door, we answered the door, and y'all, Mr. and Mrs. Claus was at my front door. And they came bearing gifts. And in my friend group, everyone got a bunch of babies. So you can imagine there's this Christmas party, everyone's feeling good, all the kids are running around. We built, Gwen's parents had built like a makeshift sleigh out of wood pallets, and they were doing sleigh rides in the driveway. Everyone's having a good time. And as if it couldn't get any better, all of a sudden the door opens, and y'all, Santa Claus is in the building with Mrs. Claus bearing gifts. The babies went wild. All the adults started smiling. We got pictures of Santa Claus eating barbecue. Y'all, people are still talking about that party. You know, another time we did a birthday party at a lake house. One of our friends owned the lake house. They lent us the lake house for my birthday. It was just a big old barbecue, reminiscent of the barbecues I told you about when I was a kid. But when everybody got there, one thing we had did, one of my friends brought their boat. We rented another boat, and we were doing boat rides on the lake. No one expected it. Didn't anyone know about it. And then we ended the night with our own private fireworks show that we had done. We didn't tell anybody about it. Y'all, people are still talking about these events. So whatever it is, it does not have to be that extravagant or what have you. But I just do things kind of extra sometimes. We do. But we always try to add some kind of surprise. And if not a surprise, we try to send people home with something. Sometimes we'll bake some fresh cookies and send everyone home with a pack of cookies or whatever. But something just that makes your party, your dinner party, your what event stands out. The other thing that we do is we always have to-go containers, y'all. Always have to-go containers. If you don't go home with nothing from a Drew and Gwen party, you go home with some food because we don't want the leftovers. So we always have to-go containers, and we send all the food that's left over home with the guest. People really, really enjoy that, I promise you. With that said, y'all, my final notes are, and I'm going to reiterate, the key to a successful event, now and evermore for us, is about creating an experience, creating a moment. A good event, my notes say a good event should leave your guests wanting more. A good event should leave your guests wanting to come back. A good event will have your guests talking about it for days and years to come. We also always love seeing people talking and exchanging information, phone numbers, Instagrams, emails, all of that thing, that were not talking or did not know each other before they got there. When we do our supper club dinners, we always love at the end of these dinners, oftentimes these are customers and clients of ours that we know, however, they don't know each other. But at the end of every supper club, we see people exchanging numbers and information. You never know who you're going to meet. You know, an event is always for all the entrepreneurs out there. An event, whatever the event is always a great, great, great networking opportunity as well. So when you see your guest exchanging information and you know they didn't know each other beforehand, that's always a good sign that your event went well, that it was great and executed properly. Y'all, listen, my business is events and creating these moments and experiences for people. But this doesn't just have to be a party. This can be a work retreat. This can be a business meeting. This can be a networking group or a meetup. Whatever it is, y'all, when people are gathering with you, for you, around you, let them leave feeling something that they haven't felt or experienced before. Let them leave wanting more, whatever it is. Y'all, this is just my heart. It's the holiday season. Whether it's the holiday season or not, hopefully this information here will help you create moments for you, your family, and your loved ones, y'all. Remember, here at the Eating Chambers channel, our goal is to always excite you, educate you, empower you into the future that you want for yourself and for your business. Y'all, please, please, please remember to like and subscribe. Do all the things to help us continue to bring you this great, great content. And as always, don't forget our homies, Last Night's Coffee on all podcast platforms. Check them out. A couple of great, great guys. Great, great content. Until next time, y'all, keep doing what you do. Plan a great event. We'll talk soon. we are gone.